Hello, Michael here. Looking today at Psalm 74 for our devotion. The psalm, which may be subtitled, Arise, O God, defend your cause. And we're going to focus on verse 3 to 6 for the exposition. Let's go ahead and read those, 4 verses. Verse 3 Lift up thy feet unto the perpetual desolations, even all that the enemy hath done wickedly in the sanctuary. Verse 4 Thy enemies roar in the midst of thy congregations. They set up their ensigns for signs. Verse 5 A man was famous according as he had lifted up axes upon the thick trees. And verse 6 But now they break down the carved work thereof at once with axes and hammers. And so, as we turn to the treasure of David for the exposition, let's go ahead and read verse 3 again. Lift up thy feet unto the perpetual desolations, even all that the enemy hath done wickedly in the sanctuary. And Spurgeon exposits. Lift up thy feet unto the perpetual desolations. The ruin made had already long been an eyesore to the suppliant, and there seemed no hope of restoration. Havoc lorded it not only for a day or a year, but with perpetual power. This is another argument with God. Would Jehovah sit still and see his own land made a wilderness, his own palace a desolation? Until he should arise and draw near, the desolations would remain. Only his presence could cure the evil. Therefore is he entreated to hasten with uplifted feet for the deliverance of his people. Even all that the enemy hath done wickedly in the sanctuary. Every stone in the ruined temple appealed to the Lord. On all sides were the marks of impious spoilers. The holiest places were evidence of their malicious wickedness. Would the Lord forever permit this? Would he not hasten to overthrow the foe who defied him to his face and profaned the throne of his glory? Faith finds pleas in the worst circumstances. She uses even the fallen stones of her desolate palaces, and assails with them the gates of heaven, casting them forth with the great engine of prayer. And verse 4 that read, Thy enemies roar in the midst of thy congregation. They set up their ensigns for signs. Thine enemies roar in the midst of thy congregation. Where thy people sang like angels, these barbarians roar like beasts. When thy saints come together for worship, these cruel men attack them with all the fury of lions. They have no respect for the most solemn gatherings, but intrude themselves and their blasphemies into our most hallowed meetings. How often in times of persecution or prevalent heresy has the church learned the meaning of such language? May the Lord spare us such misery, when hypocrites abound in the church and pollute our worship. The case is parallel to that before us. Lord, save us from so severe a trial. They set up their ensigns for signs. Idolatrous emblems used in the war were set up over God's altar as an insulting token of victory and contempt for the vanquished and their God. Papists, Arians, and the modern school of Neolagians have in this day set up their ensigns for signs. Superstitions, unbelief, and carnal wisdom have endeavored to usurp the place of Christ crucified, to the grief of the Church of God. The enemies without do us small damage, but those within the church cause her serious harm, by supplanting the truth and placing error in its stead. They deceive the people and lead multitudes to destruction. As a Jew felt a holy horror when he saw an idolatrous emblem set up in the holy place, Even so do we when in a Pentecost church we see the fooleries of Rome, and when from pulpits once occupied by men of God we hear philosophy and vain deceit. Verse 5. A man was famous according as he has lifted up axes upon the thick trees. A man was famous according as he had lifted up axes upon the thick trees. Once men were renowned for felling the cedars and preparing them for building the temple. But now the axe finds other works, and men are as proud of destroying as their fathers were of erecting. Thus in the olden times our sirs dealt sturdy blows against the forests of Arrow, and labored hard to lay the axe at the root of the trees. But alas, their sons appear to be quite as diligent to destroy the truth and overthrow all that their fathers built up. Oh, for the good old times again! Oh, for an hour of Luther's hatchet or Calvin's mighty axe! In verse 6. But now they break down the carved work thereof at once with axes and hammers. But now they break down the carved work thereof at once with axes and hammers. The invaders were as industrious to destroy as the ancient builders had been to construct. Such fair carving it was barbarous to hew in pieces, but the Vandals had no mercy, and broke down all, with any weapon which came to hand. In these days men are using axes and sledgehammers against the gospel and the church. Glorious truths, far more exquisite than the goodliest carvings, are cavilled over and smashed by the blows of modern criticism. Truths which have upheld the afflicted and cheered the dying are smitten by pretentious Goths, who would be accounted learned, but know not the first principles of the truth. With sharp ridicule and heavy blows of sophistry, they break the faith of some, and would, if it were possible, destroy the confidence of the elect themselves. Assyrians, Babylonians, and Romans are but types of spiritual foes who labored to crush the truth and the people of God. Yes, not nice. These wolves come in all types of disguises and must be seen for who they are. You know, many times you sit, especially when least expected, some foreign substitute comes before and propagates a fallacy as if it was divine truth. And you are spiritual wise must take a note and not imbibe a mite of it. It's so treacherous, so treacherous. Yes, I will follow you as you follow Christ, is my motto. Trust you enjoy the meditation. Michael here declaring yet again, Jesus is Lord. Until next time, be